Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, my name is Dr. Avinash Dadich. I am a professor of law and dean of Institute of Legal Studies and Research, GLA University, Mathura. Dear students, when I started thinking about this program, then the one idea was in my mind that normally the business school students, BBA, MBA and the other business executives, they used to think that law means the law enacted by the government, then the advocates, then judiciary, police, all this type of very classical organizations which we are observing since thousands years. However, during the last 70 to 80 years, what we have observed that few specialized agencies or the regulators, we call them regulators, they have been developed in our country and they at the global level. Okay. So, in this lecture, we will talk about the theories of regulation and functioning of few regulatory bodies in India. Why we are talking about regulation and regulatory bodies? Because they are very different type of organizations. They are the part of government, but they are not working under the government. So, that is very special relationship, they are not protected by any constitutional provision, just like the High Court and Supreme Court and other judiciary. They are enacted by the government to do something very specific task in our economy. Okay. So, let us understand the theories of regulations and then functioning of few regulatory bodies. Theories of regulation. The development and techniques of regulations have been the subject of research in business school. Two basic schools of thought have emerged on regulatory policy, namely positive theory of regulation and normative theory of regulation. So, what is the positive theory of regulation? This theory says that the regulation examines why regulation occurs, why regulatory bodies are required, why we cannot solve those issues through the normal courts. The point is, like for example, if I talk about the banks, so when we started the concept of bank, so initially in India, maybe obviously the banking was there before the RBI. I'm not saying the organized banking, but unorganized banking, people were giving loans to each other, people were charging interest from each other. So, it was not like that the first time a new type of banking has emerged. However, when we see the complex nature of banking now and 100 years back, or the stock market or a telecom market, insurance market, all these things, they have been so complex now and so competitive. So, and it is a very special field. So, it is difficult to expect from the government, like the normal bureaucrats and civil servants, to understand these things, because they are very technical in nature. Like if I talk about the suppose the RBI or SEBI, like for example SEBI. So, SEBI is dealing with very specific issue of stock exchange market. Okay. So, it is very technical, and the person who is sitting in the finance ministry in Delhi may not have that expertise to understand the nitty-gritties of the stock exchange market. So, we need some organization who can understand the technical aspects of the sector or the market and then do something. Okay. So, the first thing, why it occurs? Because the government is not very efficient. The normal machinery of the government is not that efficient, and these markets keep changing very quickly. So, like suppose if something is happening in the market, so it is not static. Maybe if you talk about the telecom sector, you can easily see in last 10 years the telecom sector has changed completely from a normal mobile company to a internet service provider. They are doing so many things now. Okay. So, with the rapid change in the sector, we cannot expect from the government to adopt their rules, regulations, their policies, their understanding so quickly. Okay. That is why we need such type of regulators. These theories of regulation include theories of market power, interest group theories that describe that stakeholders' interest in regulations, and theories of government opportunism that describe why restrictions on government discretion may be necessary for the government to provide efficient service to customers. Okay, so there are basically three theories here in the positive theory. The first is that market power, because we do not want that in any sector someone becomes so powerful, so big, so dominant that that player or that company starts abusing its dominance, or doing something illegal, unethical, exploitative behavior against the competitor as well as the consumer. So that is a one thing that we do not want market power. That is why we need specialized agencies. The second is interest group, because see, once the market becomes very complex, even the stakeholders in the market like the companies, consumers, they start demanding that now we need a specialized agency who can take care of our needs. Okay, because you can't expect that thing from the government. Like for example, if I give the example of insurance sector, so all insurance companies, what they wanted, now there should be an insurance body who can tell us what is legal, what is not illegal, and instead of dealing with the bureaucrats in the ministries, and they keep changing very frequently, they do not have practical and the market reality understanding of the insurance sector. So instead of dealing with government directly, the market or the interest groups, they like to interact with the regulator. And the third one is the government's opportunism, like government wants to control everything, like historically if you see 30-40 years back, then even in India government was controlling everything. Like for example, if you wanted to apply for a phone, first you need to file an application in the government will give you number, it will take 2 to 3 years, 4 years, so everything. Or even in insurance, like there was only one company, LIC, so if you wanted to buy insurance you just need to go to the LIC. So the idea was that the government wanted to control every aspect of citizens' life, they never wanted to open the market. But in last 30-40 years, what we have observed in India, once we opened this sector, once we opened our economy, then new players are entering into market, competition is happening. In that scenario, we do not want, like the companies do not want that now the government should control everything, So we are ready to follow rules and regulations, but because the government is already doing business, like in insurance sector, in telecom sector, in so many other sectors, government is also doing business. So there is a conflict of interest situation. You can understand, the government is doing business, at the same time government is trying to control the insurance sector, banking sector, because we have private banks and government banks. So in that scenario, this theory says that we want someone absolutely different, so that the government can focus on some core areas of governance, the law and order, infrastructure development, health, some very core areas, instead of doing business and competing with these all private players. Regulatory agencies, regulators and their role in market, what they do. Regulatory agencies play a major role in the policy outcome of the state. The key functions of regulation, such as legislature and execution of regulatory mandates, are discharged through the agencies existing in different forums across different level of government. So their main job is that first a law is made by the government, and then within that law the government gives a mandate to that regulatory body, that okay, as per this law, now the SEBI Act 1992, the main job of the SEBI was to regulate the financial market or the stock exchange market, okay, equity market. So they get a very clear mandate from the government side. They can be seen as a separate department within a ministry or as a separate entity with their own statutory foundation, okay, independent regulatory agencies, or they can be supranational bodies also. So there can be different levels of regulatory bodies. One, they can be the part of the department, like so many regulatory bodies are working within the ministries, okay. So they have less autonomy, And some regulatory bodies, they have their own statutory foundation. Statutory foundation means that they are being enacted by the law by the government. Okay. So now they have their own rules, regulations in the proper legal shape, and there can be some supranational bodies also that they are have pan India presence. Okay. So you will find different types of regulators as per the need of the regulator and the market. The actions of these regulators are of a critical importance in the design and execution of regulatory function. The regulatory bodies were established to create a transparent, accountable system free of political interference and protect consumer interest while allowing for market freedom to exist. So their job is very, very dynamic. So their first job is that they want to create a transparent and accountable system in the market. There has to be some transparency and accountability in the market, and they want to create a system where political interference is very, very minimum, because when you are dealing with government, then if they are working under the government without having an autonomy, then political interference can create a lot of inefficiencies in the market. But they want to be free from the political interference, and they want to protect the interest of the consumer. Okay. But at the same time, they also want to protect the freedom of trade, like people can do their business in their manner. So it's like a very multi-dimensional job which they are doing right now. So that's very interesting. And regulation is a very specialized form of administration. Regulators have special powers, and that is formal separation from the ministries indeed, but within the institutional mosaic. Okay. So like for example, SEBI is coming under the Ministry of Finance. Okay. But it's coming within the Ministry of Finance, but it doesn't get the orders from Ministry of Finance. It has its own ecosystem, rules and regulations and autonomy. So it's very specialized form of administration. Okay. So most of the time when we talk about the public administration, it's very generic in nature. The civil servants, they are doing so many things, doing maybe X, Y, Z, they are talking about education, health, so many things, But here that regulator and their officers are doing just one job which is given to them by the government through the legislature mandate. So now let us talk about few regulators. The first one is SEBI. Okay. Why was SEBI formed? At the end of 1970s and during the 1980s, capital market were emerging as the new sensation among the individuals of India. Many malpractices started taking place, such as unofficial self-styled merchant bankers, unofficial private placement, rigging of price, non-adherence of the provision of Companies Act, violation of rules and regulations of stock exchanges, delay in delivery of shares and price rigging. So during 70s and 80s, I believe that that after especially in 90s, we have seen so many scams like the Harshad Mehta scam and so many other scams also. So during that time, the stock exchange market was taking a shape in India, but some even individuals, the common men, they were also investing in stock exchange. It was just the beginning of the stock market, but because there was no rule and regulation and no regulatory body, so they were involved in all types of irregular, unethical and illegal practices. Due to these malpractices, people started losing confidence in the stock market. The government felt a sudden need of set up a regulatory authority to regulate the working and reduce these malpractices. As a result, government came up with the establishment of the SEBI. So to counter the malpractices in the stock exchange market, the government established SEBI. Role of SEBI. This regulatory authority acts as a watchdog for all the capital market participants, and its main purpose is to provide such an environment for the financial market that facilitates the efficient and smooth functioning or working of the securities market. SEBI also play an important role in the economy. How they play important role in the economy? Because if the security market is functioning very well, then people have interest in the companies. See, if you want to see the nerves of any country, like how they are developing, how efficient they are, You just need to see their the functioning of their stock exchange. If the stock exchange is emerging, growing, it means the country is also growing, because stock exchange is nothing but the consolidation of all big companies in India. So, if big companies are emerging in India like top 50, top 100, it means that India is also emerging. Okay. To make this happen, it ensures that three main participants of the financial markets are taken care of. The first one is issuer of the securities like the companies, investors and financial intermediaries. So, there are three people in the financial market. First is the company, second the consumer, and there is a middleman who is connecting these two people. Okay. Issuer of the certificates. These are entities in the corporate field that raise funds from the various sources in the market. These organizations make sure that they get a healthy and transparent environment for their needs. The investors are the one who keeps the market active. Obviously, these are the people who are putting money in the market. This regulatory authority is responsible for maintaining the environment that is free from malpractices to restore the confidence of the general people who invest their hard earned money in the markets. So, the investor's interest is the foremost and the most important job of the SEBI. Until and unless people are not having faith in the investment market or in the security market, then they will not put their hard earned money in the capital market. And financial intermediaries. These are the people who act as a middleman between the issuer and the investors. They make the financial transaction smooth and safe. So, we need these people also. It is not like the companies and investors, and there is a very big knowledge gap or transaction gap. So, we need a strong financial intermediaries who can connect these two people very effectively. Functions of SEBI. The main primary three functions are protective functions, regulatory function and development function. Okay. So, we will see all these three one by one. Protective functions. As the name suggests, these functions are performed by SEBI to protect the interest of investors and other financial participants. Okay. So, what they do in this protective, see, they are trying to protect the people, all the three stakeholders. It includes checking price rigging, that no one is doing price rigging. What is price rigging? Basically, where people are collaborating with each other illegally to fix the price. Okay, that what should be the price of this particular stock. So, then the top 10 players, they sit together and they decide, okay, this stock should collapse, this stock should rise, So, instead of demand and supply and market fundamental realities, the stocks are coming down and going up due to this price rigging. Prevent insider trading. So, what is insider trading? That suppose you are working in a company or you have some confidential information about that company because of your professional connection. You may be consultant or you may be anyone. So, if you have that information, if you know that the company is going down because they have, suppose like you have this information that company is going to lose maybe $1 billion contract in next 10 days, if you have that information, that that the price of the share of that company will also go down. So, if you have positive or negative whatever information you have, and if you use that information to make some profit in the stock exchange market, like you claim that okay, you put your money that the share will go down. So, or if you have some information that company is going to take $10 billion order from the government in next 7 days, it is a very confidential information, very few people are aware of it. If you have this knowledge, you will buy the share right now and you know that after 7 days it will increase by 10, 15, 20, 30%. So, this type of insider trading, if you have some privileged knowledge, you cannot use that knowledge for trading. So, that is called insider trading. Promote fair practices. In the market everybody should work in a fair and transparent manner. So, they promote fair practices. Create awareness among investors. This is very important for SEBI. Until and unless investors are aware about their legal rights, about their the rights under the SEBI, rights under the other laws connected to SEBI, how they will know that someone is cheating with them. So, they create lot of awareness among the investors, and prohibit fraudulent and unfair trade practices. So, if someone is doing something, any fraudulent or unfair practices, they like to stop it. Okay. Then the second is regulatory functions. These regulatory functions include designing guidelines and code of conduct for the proper functioning of the financial intermediaries and corporates. So, they create rules and regulations for companies and the intermediaries, the middleman, they tell them what they can do, what they cannot do. So, they really create a good guidelines, a roadmap for all the people, that what is allowed and what is not allowed. So, in case if they have any doubt, they can go to the SEBI, and the SEBI can tell them that as per my guidelines, as per my rules and regulation, X activity is allowed or not. Regulation of takeover of companies. So, if companies are taking over by other companies, they need to take approval from the SEBI. Conducting inquiries and audit of exchange, okay, registration of brokers, sub brokers, merchant bankers. So, everyone who is working as a middleman must be registered with the SEBI. Without SEBI's registration, if someone is doing this job, that is an offence under the SEBI Act. Levying of fees, like the SEBI decides that who will pay for what activity. Performing and exercising powers, and register and regulate credit rating agencies. So, all credit rating agencies, they are also registered and regulated by the SEBI. Development functions. This regulatory authority performs certain development functions also, that include, but they are not limited to, imparting training to intermediaries, promotion of fair trading and reduction of malpractice, carry out research work, encouraging self-regulation, self-regulating organization, and buy and sell mutual fund directly from AMC through a broker. So, they do lot of development functions also, that people should know, people should get more training, people should, and they do lot of research also, so that research is available on the SEBI website. So, apart from protection and regulatory function, they do lot of development functions for the all stakeholders. Powers of SEBI. When it comes to stock exchange, SEBI has the power to regulate and approve any law relating to the functions in the stock exchange. It has the powers to access the books of records and accounts for all the stock exchanges, and it can arrange for the check and returns into the working for the stock exchange. So, all stock exchange in our country, in all states, they are falling under the jurisdiction of the SEBI. Okay. So, they can go and check their documents, they can ask them what they are doing, how they are doing. So, because people are not doing only investment in NSE or BSE, there are a lot of regional stock exchanges, and those stock exchanges are also coming under the SEBI. It can also conduct hearings and pass judgments if there are any malpractices detected to the stock exchange. So, SEBI also enjoys the power of the court. So, if there any crime as per the SEBI or in any contravention under the SEBI law, then SEBI can act as a court also. They can issue the notice, then they will hear the parties, and after hearing the parties, they can impose penalties, they can take appropriate action. So, SEBI does not act just like a silent regulator, even they go for those people and they do the proper legal and regulatory and the judicial activity and pass an order. When it comes to the treatment of companies, it has the power to get companies listed and delisted from any stock exchange in the country. So, if any company which wants to be listed in India, like in BSE, NSE or any stock market in country, they need to go to the SEBI, and SEBI can allow them to listed, or if any company is involved in any malpractices, in an unethical, illegal activities, SEBI can delist that company from the stock exchange. Okay. So, following the SEBI's power, the next power is it has the power to completely regulate all aspects of insider trading and announce penalties and exclusions if a company is caught doing something unethical. It can also make companies list their shares in more than one stock exchange if they see that it will be beneficial to investors. Coming to investors protection, SEBI has the power to draft legal rules to ensure the protection of the general public. It also has the power to regulate the legislation of brokers and other middlemen who will deal with the investors in the market. So, we will finish SEBI here. So, I will summarize the role and power of the SEBI here. So, the SEBI is the apex regulator in our country who regulates the stock exchange market in our country. Okay. It is in the headquarters is in Bombay, and then they have their regional offices in many cities in our country. And all stock exchange, whether it is a national or regional, they come under the jurisdiction of the SEBI. The main job of SEBI is to protect the investors, to create the environment where a lot of companies are interested to go for the stocks, and the job and responsibility of the middleman, because we need the middleman, we need brokers, we need sub brokers, because to take care of the need of the millions people in this country, we need someone who can help them. But at the same time, SEBI creates an environment where everyone works in a very accountable and transparent manner, and if anyone or any company is involved in any unethical, illegal, insider trading or any type of malpractices, SEBI got a lot of power, civil as well as criminal, to prosecute against those people as well as the companies. Okay. So, I think SEBI is very important regulator in our country, and what we have observed that after 1998 or maybe 2000, there are very few like scams in the stock exchange market. I am not saying that everything is very clean, but however, if you see the history of the last 15 years in our country, then we have seen very few big scams in our stock exchange market. So, SEBI is regulating stock market very successfully, very effectively, and all like that is why we can see our stock exchange market is emerging and growing at very high speed. So, I think the credit must go to the SEBI. And how this is important for you knowing about the SEBI, that if you are working in a financial market or banking market or anything which is relating to the trade of the stocks, the security market, you must follow the developments of SEBI, with their rules, their regulations, their compliance manual, compliance requirements, everything issued by the SEBI must be observed by you, so that you can understand that how things are changing in the market, what type of new rules and regulations are coming into the market, how those rules and regulations are going to affect my business, positive or negative. So, if you understand SEBI very well, you can work very effectively in the financial and capital market. Now, let us talk about the second regulator, that is a insurance regulator. Students, as you know that insurance is very important for the common man as well as for the businesses. The idea of insurance basically started in Europe in 15th or 16th century. The first idea was that how to protect the people's life. If the people dies, then they lose everything, maybe their family they got nothing. So, then people started creating small communities, societies, and they start putting some money, and this is how they were creating an environment where the collective responsibility is being developed and protecting the people. Okay. So, insurance is very important and very crucial for the people's life. If any insurance company fails to perform its obligations, that is a disaster for anyone, like whether it is an individual or a company. Like for example, if a company got a fire insurance, okay, and they are paying their premiums in a very regular manner, but if a fire happens, then if they lose their business and if the insurance company is not ready to pay them, that is a disaster for a businessman. Okay. So, insurance is very important for everyone. When it is very important, then obviously we need to regulate it properly, so that companies cannot manipulate their situation with the customers. Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, IRDA, also called IRDA, is the supreme authority that authorizes the functioning of insurance business in India. It was established by IRDA Act 1999. The primary purpose of IRDA is to safeguard the interest of the policyholders and also ensure the growth of insurance in the country. Objectives of IRDA: carry forward the interest of policyholders. Policyholders can be individuals as well as the companies. Uphold the development of the insurance sector. So, see, that is a larger goal. What IRDA wants, that insurance sector itself should grow. Okay. Ensure quick resolution of claims. That is very important, because in insurance you are paying premium. In case if something goes wrong in your life, you must get your claims quickly. You know, this mechanism should be quick, fair and efficient. Prevent fraud and malpractices by the insurance companies, by the insurance agents. Ensure fair conduct of the financial market when dealing with the insurance. Functions of IRDA: to provide applicant with a registration certificate, renewal, modification, withdrawal, suspension or cancellation of such registration. Okay. To protect the policyholders' interest in case of assigning and nominating policyholders, understanding insurance claims, insurable interest, surrendering the value of the policy and other terms and conditions of the insurance contract. So, see, as I told you that insurance contract cannot be treated just like a normal contract where the insurance companies can put any clause. So, the IRDA ensures that their clauses, agreement clauses, their contract clauses should not affect the public in negative manner. Okay. So, they also examine those clauses, and in case if they find any problem, they issue guidelines, they issue notices that please remove this clause, and this clause should be like this, you know, in the interest of the policyholders. To mention required qualifications, code of conduct and practical training for intermediaries and insurance intermediaries and agents. So, IRDA also ensures that insurance companies, the insurance agents and any companies which are working as a middleman between the insurance company and policyholders, they must get required qualification and training. Like, it should not be like that anybody can become the insurance agent, that every company, everyone who is connecting the insurance companies and the policyholders, they must get proper training and they must get required qualification also. To explain the code of conduct applicable to the surveyor as well as to the assessors. Okay. So, surveyors and assessors, they are also very important part of the insurance sector, because if something goes wrong and you go for the claim, then these people, assessors, surveyors, they file the report. So, they should also be properly trained and regulated by the IRDA. Ensure the efficiency and proficiency of the conduct of the insurance business, and to encourage as well as the regulate the relationship of professional organizations and the insurance and reinsurance businesses, and to levy the charge in order to carry out the purpose of the act. To call for information, undertaking inspection, conducting inquiries and investigations, including the audit of insurer, intermediaries, insurance intermediaries and other organizations connected with the insurance business. So, what they can do, they can ask for the information from all these stakeholders, you know, that you please provide me this information, that information, so that we can ensure that you are not doing anything wrong. They can undertake inspection also, you know, they can go to those premises, they can do inspections, they can conduct inquiries and investigations if they find any complaint against an insurance company, including the audit of insurer. If they want, they can do audit also of that insurance company. To regulate the control the rates, benefit terms and conditions offered to the insurer pertaining to the general insurance business not controlled and regulated by the Tariff Advisory Committee under section 64 of the Insurance Act. To specify the way in which the book should be maintained and the manner in which the statement of accounts is to be rendered by the insurance and by the insurance companies. So, they also work on the standardization of the accounting system in the insurance, to maintain the investment funds by the insurance companies. Okay. Regulation of the maintenance of the margin solvency, that is very important, because IDBI ensures that all insurance companies must be financially sound. If they are struggling with their finance, then if the claim comes, then they will not be able to pay. So, they maintain that the margins solvency, that obviously they ask them to put some amount of money with the IDBI, and they also ask them to maintain the profit ratio also. If they are going in losses, then that is a red signal for the policy holders. To decide the disputes among the insurer and the intermediaries of the insurance intermediaries, to administer the functioning of the tariff advisory committee, setting down the percentage of premium income of the insurer of the financial scheme to promote and regulate the professional organizations, to safeguard the interest of the policy holders in case of the assigning and nomination of the policy holders, setting out the percentage of life insurance business and general insurance business to be taken ahead by the insurer in the rural and social sector. So, they also ensure that in rural and social sector these companies should invest more time and energy, because there is a real need. Okay, there is a real need. So, they also maintain the life insurance business and general insurance business, to regulate the insurance industry in a way that ensures financial soundness of that of the applicable laws and regulations. So, that insurance industry should be financially sound. If they do not have enough capital and money and cash flow and profits, that can be a very great red signal for everyone. To create laws to remove any scope of ambiguity and in the insurance sector. So, in case if there are any ambiguity created by the law or by the judgments of the courts, they remove that ambiguity through their rules and regulations. Organization setup of IRDA. IRDA is a 10-member body, consists of one chairman for 5 years and maximum is 60 years, 5 whole-time members for 5 years and maximum age is 62 years, 4 part-time members not more than 5 years. The chairman and members of IRDA are appointed by the government of the India. The present chairman of IRDA is Subhash Chandra Kuntia. TRI. So, before moving to TRI, I will summarize the main points in the IRDA. So, IRDA is the apex body in India if you are working in the insurance sector. Okay. So, and when I say insurance sector, it is not only insurance companies, insurance agents, insurance intermediaries, reinsurance companies. If you are working in that particular sector, okay, then you have to comply with the all rules and regulations of IRDA. Okay. So, that is very important to understand that IRDA is the organization which not only helps the investors, but it also helps the companies to create an environment where they can reach out to maximum population in our country. Still not more than 3% of Indian population is covered by the insurance. So, it is a huge scope for the insurance companies, but at the same time IRDA does not want that those companies and those stakeholders, they indulge in any anti policy holder policy or unfair or fraud or cheating, anything like that. Okay. So, they are taking care of the entire insurance sector. The next agency is TRI. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has came into being as a consequence of opening of the telecommunications sector to private operators. It was set up under the TRI Act of 1997. The Telecom Regulatory TRI was established with effect from February 20, 1997 by an Act of Parliament called the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act 1997. It was established to regulate telecom services, including fixation, revision of tariffs and telecom services which were earlier vested in the central government. So, this was a time where the central government opened the telecom sector. So, before 1997, no private player can enter into the telecom sector. So, they opened the private sector, and because of that openness, now we can see in 2022 almost 800 million, almost like 80 crore people are using mobile and internet in our country. TRI structure. TRAI shall have, in addition to its chairman, at least 2 full-time members and not more than 2 part-time members, all appointed by the central government. The members should have special knowledge or professional experience in telecom industry, finance, accountancy, law, management and consumer affairs. Only those seniors and retired government officers can be appointed as a member who have served for at least 3 years as a secretary or additional secretary to the union or state government. Okay. Powers and functions of TRAI: to recommend the need of and timing of introduction of new service providers and terms and conditions for the license to service provider, to ensure technical compatibility and interconnect between different service providers and regulate their revenue sharing arrangement, to ensure compliance with terms of license and re-evaluation of the same for non-compliance, to lay down and ensure a time period for providing long distance and local distance circuits, to facilitate competition and promote efficiency in operations to promote the growth of telecom services, to promote consumer interest, monitor quality of service, inspect equipment used in the network and make the recommendation about such equipment, to maintain a register of interconnect agreement and keep it open for the inspection and to settle disputes among the service providers in this respect. So, you can see the power and functioning of TRAI are very wide. They are not only dealing with the pricing and technological part, but they are dealing the overall operations of a telecom sector. And they also give advice to the government on any matter related to the telecom industry. They also impose levy taxes and charges for services and ensure that universal service obligations are compliant with. So, they also force those companies that you need to expand your business, your services in rural and semi-urban areas also, to perform any other administration and financial functions as may be entrusted to by the central government. Objectives of TRAI: TRAI's mission is to create and nurture conditions for the growth of the communication sector in our country. TRAI regulates telecom services, including fixation, revision of tariff for telecom services which were earlier vested in the government. It also aims to provide a fair and transparent policy environment which promotes a level playing field and facilitate fair competition. That is very important job of the TRAI. TRAI not only helps the companies to understand what are the rules, regulations, government policies, so that they can integrate those rules, regulations and policies in their business strategies, so that in long term they can design how they want to develop in the telecom sector. So, the main role of TRAI is to give them clarity. Second role is that no one should abuse its dominance in the telecom sector. So, if there is not a fair competition in the telecom sector, TRAI can intervene and solve the issue. Power of TRAI: order for furnishing information. It can also upon any service provider to furnish in writing the information or explanation relating to its affair as the authority may require. Appointment for inquiry: the authority may appoint one or more person to make an inquiry in relation to the affairs of any service provider. Orders from inspection: it is empowered to direct any of its officials or employees to inspect the books of the accounts of other documents of any service provider. Issue directions to the service providers. The authority also have the power to issue such directions to the service providers as it may consider necessary for proper functioning of the service providers. So, now we will see few important cases of all these regulatory bodies. The first and the important one is the SEBI versus Sahara. I think we all heard about the Sahara case, where the SEBI initiated the inquiry, and due to the SEBI intervention finally the head of the Sahara went to Tihar jail also. Initially there was a floating issue of operationally fully convertible debentures with Sahara India Real Estate Corporation Limited and Sahara Housing Investment Corporation Limited, which affected the collective subscription from 25th April 2008 up to 30th 2011, April 2011. The company bagged roughly rupees 17,656 crore during this period. This whole amount was collected in the name of private placement from 30 million investors without fulfilling the requirement needed to comply with public offering of securities. So, as a result, the time members of SEBI passed an order on 23rd June 2011 to restrict the company's promoters, including Mr. Subharto Roy, from reaching the security market. Sahara appealed the order to the whole time members in the front of Securities Appellate Tribunal SAT, and the appeal was dismissed by the SAT through an order of 18th October 2011. In the end, Sahara appealed in the front of Supreme Court against the SAT order. So, what were the issues in the SEBI versus Sahara case? The first issue was that whether SEBI has its jurisdiction over this matter under section 11, 11A and 11B of the SEBI Act and section 51A of the Companies Act, or this matter comes under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The second issue was whether hybrid operational fully convertible debentures comes under the category of securities as defined in the Companies Act, SEBI Act and SCRA to follow SEBI to have jurisdiction to investigate the case. The third issue was that OFCDs subscribed by the people in a private placement or not. If not, then who has the jurisdiction over this matter? The fourth issue was when the provisions given under section 73 of the Companies Act is upheld over the case or not. The fifth issue was that whether the provision provided the Public Utilities Companies 2003 will have jurisdiction over this case. So, this case was become very complex. Basically, the basic idea was that the Sahara took little money from 3 crore people in our country. Okay. And the argument of SEBI that you cannot collect money like this because you are not issuing any share, So, your deal is not acceptable as per the SEBI rules and regulation. The argument of Sahara that we are not issuing any share, so therefore, there is no jurisdiction of SEBI in this matter. Okay. So, there was a jurisdiction issue. In this case, the Supreme Court held that SEBI has no jurisdiction to investigate or adjudicate this matter, as SEBI Act allows SEBI with special power to protect of the investors. The power given to the SEBI can also supersede other regulatory providers under different laws, which means SEBI must respect the provision of other laws and must not conflict with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, where the interest of investors are at stake. So, the Supreme Court also laid down objectives of the enactment of the SEBI Act and inserted section 5A in the Companies Act to provide special powers to SEBI in the matter related to the company's transfer of securities. The Supreme Court advised the SEBI has the jurisdiction to administer the listed public companies in matters related to the transfer of securities and also in those public companies where there is intended to obtain the securities which are listed the Stock Exchange of India. The Supreme Court also stated that the OFCDs issued by the companies are in the nature of hybrid instrument, so it does not come under scrutiny within the definition provided by the Companies Act and SCRA. As the definition of securities provided under section 2H of SCRA contains marketable security rather than hybrid instruments. So, the court cannot question the marketability of the instruments as it was offered to millions of people and debentures came under scrutiny as described by the provision of SEBI Act, the Companies Act and SCRA. The Supreme Court was also described the intention of the companies was to show that OFCDs as the public placement, but they do not act like when they offer to more than 50 people. Section 67(3) states that any security which is offered and subscribed by more than 50 people will be considered as a public offer, which gives the jurisdiction to SEBI, and companies have to comply with all legal provisions related to the matter. Sahara argued that the Companies Act is not applicable as it is apply to only listed companies, and no company can be forced to get listed on the stock exchange market. The Supreme Court rejected this argument and stated that law is clear and impartial. The Supreme Court also observed that section 73(1) of the Act provides a restriction on every company intending to offer shares and debenture to the public. So, the Sahara's argument that we are doing this business outside of the purview of SEBI, we are not listed in the SEBI for that purpose. So, SEBI does not have any jurisdiction on us. Okay. So, finally, this case was settled, the Sahara versus SEBI, but it was a huge case in the Indian SEBI history, and finally, because of this case the Subrata Roy remained in the jail for a very longer period, and finally they got an order from the Supreme Court that they will return this money to the people. Okay. So, I think that was the intervention of the SEBI against a very big company. Okay. The next case is KP Desai versus United India Insurance Company Maharashtra, IRDA case. When KP Desai underwent a lesser eye surgery for correcting his eyesight, it cost him 50,000 rupees. Desai had a health insurance policy with the United India Insurance Company since 1990, which he renewed every year. After the surgery in 1997, when he filed a claim for the surgery expenses, the company rejected it, stating that the surgery was purely cosmetic and not covered by the insurance. Desai filed a complaint with the South Mumbai District Consumer Dispute Redressal Forum in 1997, and the judgment ruled in his favor in April 2004. The insurance companies then filed an appeal with the Maharashtra State Dispute Redressal Forum, where the judgment was upheld. Okay. So, if you are not happy with the insurance company's order, you can contact to IRDA as well as the consumer forums. New India Insurance versus Ashok Kumar. Ashok Kumar purchased a second hand car in November 2006, which was insured by New India Insurance by the previous owner. Kumar did not inform the insurance company about the registration transfer or get the insurance policy transferred to his name. When Kumar filed a claim on the car being stolen in the March 2007, his claim was rejected on the grounds that the claim was not in his name. Kumar filed a lawsuit, and the Delhi District Commission and the State Commission ruled in his favor. This company filed an appeal with the National Commission, which ruled in the favor of, stating that IRDA regulations according to which the insurance company must be informed about the vehicle transfer within 14 days. If not, the insurance company is not liable to reimburse the claim. So, if you read the IRDA rules, guidelines, then you can understand under which condition my claim will be accepted or rejected. So, we are talking about the theories of regulation. So, we talked about the positive theory, now we will talk about the normative theory. So, normative theories of regulation generally conclude that regulation should encourage competition where feasible, minimize the cost of information asymmetries by obtaining information and providing operators with incentive to improve their performance, provide for price structure that improve economic efficiency, and establish regulatory process that provide for regulation under the law and independence, transparency, predictability, legitimacy and creditability for the regulatory system. And the principal agent theory addresses issues of information asymmetry, which in the context of utility regulation generally means that the operator knows more about its ability and efforts about the utility market than the regulator. So, these are just theories. What I was trying to say through these theories, that the basic idea of regulatory theories is that we want an ecosystem where things work in a very transparent manner, in the most accountable manner. Okay. And these regulatory bodies, they are working in a very specialized area, and if as a business and a person, if you understand the nitty-gritties of these regulatory bodies, like if you just know what they do, what they do not do, their rules and regulations, and if you comply them with the full spirit, then it not only saves your company from the regulatory violations, civil and criminal penalties, but at the private level in your individual life you can take advantage of the provisions of these regulatory bodies. So, now in India we have almost more than 50 to 60 regulatory bodies, and every year the government is introducing new more specialized regulatory bodies. So, you need to understand that law does not mean only courts. Outside of the court there are so many regulatory bodies, they are acting as an administrative agency as well as the judicial activity also. They are listening cases, they are giving their orders, so they are acting like a court. Okay. So, when you see any regulator's order, you should not presume that it is a government order, it is a regulatory order supported by the government support, but it has complete legal value. Okay. It should be treated just like a normal court order. Okay. So, with these words I believe you have basic understanding of regulatory theories, and I have given introduction of 3 regulators like the SEBI, IRDA and TRAI, what they do, how they do. So, if you can find more and more regulators in India, but the basic theory will remain the same, that they want to create efficiency, transparency and accountability in the market in the favor of the consumers, investors, and the overall objective is national economy should grow with the help of these regulators. Thank you.